name is Matt. I'm one of the pastors here. So glad to be with you here in person. Those of you in the video venue and watching online, either today or later in the week, we're so glad that you're with us as well. How you guys like the shirt? The shirt? Yeah. So a couple weeks ago, our high school students went to camp, and last week, our junior high students went to camp. And I want you to know, like, here at Copper Hills, we're passionate about reaching the next generation for Jesus. Like, we want to see the next generation's kids and students have put their faith in Jesus, begin to really follow Jesus and have their lives completely transformed by Jesus, and then ultimately bring some of their friends along with them. Man, that's what we're super excited about being a part of here at Copper Hills. And I just think camp is one of the best ways, kind of a catalyst for a thriving, strong student ministry. And so I'm so grateful for the fact that they were able to go. And I just wanted to take a moment too and just let anybody that serves within student ministry, especially those small group leaders, and I just want you to know how much you mean to me. I actually believe kind of the rise and fall, or success or failure, if you will, of a thriving student ministry is the small group leaders. That the people that are doing life with these kids and pouring themselves into these kids and walking alongside of them, just giving them all that they can to help them follow Jesus. That's who really helps us have a thriving student ministry. And so for those of you who serve in student ministry, I want you to know how much you mean to me, and our church wants you to know how much you mean to them. Yeah, really. So I don't know, like, We're working hard here. We're believing God for some big things. If you've ever been a part of a church that had a thriving, like really vibrant student ministry, and we're getting so close, man, there's nothing better than seeing God work in the lives of kids and students and having them be the ones that are kind of the forefront of what God's doing in our church, and seeing this room filled with students. There's nothing better than that. And so if you've ever thought, man, I'd love to be a part of that. Or if you've ever thought, man, that terrifies me, like being a part of that. Either one. My challenge to you is as we kind of get closer, in the next couple months, we're going to have a push for some new small group leaders. I'd love to ask you to pray about it. Would you see what God might do in your heart? Like, I know some of you might be thinking right now, like, I'm either too old, or I don't know enough about the Bible, or I don't know this or that. How could I possibly lead students? Well, there's one requirement. There's one requirement, that you have an increasing love for Jesus and you want to follow him with all that you are. And you want to see kids and students do the same. And we'll train you up. We'll give you the best tools that we can to help you lead kids and students. But man, if you would just pray about what God might do, I think there's opportunity here for God to do an amazing work in our student ministry coming up over the next few years. Well, I moved a lot as a kid. My dad was Air Force, and so, we spent a couple years in a few places. We'll jump somewhere else. You guys know the story. You either live the story or know somebody who did, right? And so for me, like getting to know kids and getting to know people, like I had a short period of time, and then we would move. We didn't have FaceTime or social media, so once we left, we're done, right? That relationship's over. And so my dad ended up getting out of the active duty. He ended up retiring from the reserves after that, so thanks for your service, Dad. But he got out when I was in 4th grade. We moved from Rantoul, Illinois. No, anybody? Nobody's, yeah. Rantoul, Illinois. We moved from there to Colorado Springs, where my parents had met each other and grown up and gone to high school. And so that's where we landed when he got out of active duty. And so 4th grade, I land in this new school. And I told some of this story in the promo video. You might have seen it. When I got to this new school, like, I'm trying to figure out how do I create who I am? How do I let these kids know who I am? And I had a sweet mullet. Let's see that sweet mullet. Man, it was awesome. It was so great. And that's a part of the story you'll find out in a second. So like, I get to this class, and it's early on in me being there trying to figure out who I am. Teacher calls me up to the chalkboard. Remember chalkboards? Anyway, he calls me up to the chalkboard to work a math problem. And I know full well as I'm walking up there that I don't know how to do it. Like, I don't know how to answer this problem. But I get up there, I give it the best shot I have. Now, I'm going to be gracious to the teacher and just say I don't remember all the details. But what I do remember is that he pulled me by my mullet, and he threw me out in the hallway and said something to the effect of, "You're just no good at math." And so I spent my whole life not even really trying in math. I know it sounds crazy, right? I spent my whole life thinking that I just wasn't good at math. In fact, I remember one teacher's name from my entire time in school, Mr. Flynn, who pulled my mullet. Now, Mr. Flynn, if you're watching, you got to be like 80-something, I don't know. For the math thing, you're forgiven. For the mullet thing, I don't know if I ever can. Like, it just... So what if I asked you? What if I asked you, who are you? How would you answer that question? It's such a simple question, right? Like, for me, my name's Matt. I'm a pastor. I'm a husband. I'm not any good at math and I love mullets. Like I just give you the details, right? The quick hits. You might answer different. You might say, hey, I'm a teacher, or I'm an entrepreneur, or I'm an honor roll student, or I'm an athlete. You might link your identity to your performance or your productivity in life. You might answer, I'm a mom or dad or husband or father or single, divorced, big brother or big sister. You might tie your identity to like who you care for and who you're connected to in life. You might answer this way. You might say, I'm gay or I'm straight. You might link your identity to your sexuality. You might let that be the thing that creates and defines who you are. You might say, I'm Latino or I'm Asian or I'm black, white, I'm Arizonan or I'm Texan. You might base your identity based on an origin or a heritage or a location that you lived. If you walked up and asked anybody, just ask them the question, who are you? You get all kinds of answers. You get a job role, you get a role within the family, you get a relationship status, you get a sexuality, you get some label that somebody placed on them when they were young. Those are the answers that you would get, but the problem with all of these things, so many of these things can be stripped away from us in just a moment. So if we form our identity around these things and it gets stripped away from us, what then? What are we then? You see, we're all human. Everybody we love and everybody we care for, everybody we're connected to, they're human. And we all know how quickly that can be taken away. And so if we tie our identity to a person or to a family unit or to a relationship status, that can be taken so quickly. Even something as trivial as being a Texan, right? Like my wife was born and raised a proud Texan. She used to have this best accent. Anyway, sorry, that was just for me. But anyway, so she was born and raised a proud Texan. Unfortunately for her, because she followed me around, she has lived outside of Texas longer than she lived in Texas. So what about now? If she has her identity formed around where she's from, what is she now? And in the first service, she yelled out, I'm still a Texan, which I figured was coming the whole time, right? Those Texans are crazy. So I read this book leading up to this series called Rethink Yourself. It's by an author, Trevin Wax, and Trevin would say this. He'd say that as a culture, we've kind of advanced, if you will, kind of past the idea of allowing external things to be the markers that define us. He breaks down kind of a predominant view of how most of us shape and form our identity, who we are, what we are. It's a framework that really, if we're honest, a framework that all of us at some point or another have kind of experienced or maybe even allowed to shape who we are. He describes it like this. He would say, we look in, looking around, and then we look up. Look in, look around, and look up. Who am I? What am I? We look inside. I define myself. The first thing I do is I look in, I try and find what's going on inside there, right? And I discover what's there, then I look around, and then lastly, I look up. This way of discovering your identity requires that you first look inside yourself. Look to yourself first. In fact, Gallup did a poll, and this is what they found out. 91% of Americans would agree with this statement. You guys know this to be true. The best way to find yourself, identity, they don't use that word, but the best way to find yourself is by looking within yourself. You see, I look inside myself. I just spend some time, introspective time, looking inside. What is it that I want? What are my desires? And I dig around. What is it that I like about me? What makes me feel good about me? And then we look for other people who will affirm those things about me. Other people who will look at me and say, hey, everything that you just said about yourself, that's true. That's good, that's right. I feel the same way. And so we build our community with people who will affirm what we already think to be true about ourselves. And if that's not enough, like if there's still a little bit of room left, we're not opposed to spirituality. We just have to find one that's gonna affirm what we already believe about us. Nothing that would push against us. Find the spirituality that's gonna affirm and speak to what we already believe to be true, what our friends already believe to be true, and we'll sprinkle a little bit on top. Just becomes the seasoning on our lives, right? And this is the prevailing view of our age, and everyone is constantly being bombarded with this manipulative ideology that you can have it all, man. You do you go get it. You just go with your gut. And our entire system, the entire culture is set up to push you that direction. We hear these stats a lot now, so it's nothing new, but do you know we touch our phone about 2,600 times a day, right? Like that's what they say. And I'm gonna be kind to you, right? Maybe 200 of those, or an email, or a calendar. So let's just say 2,400 times a day, we're grabbing our phones so it can tell us how awesome we are, right? It's gonna tell us how right we are, how everything we believe to be true is true, because the algorithms are designed to tell you how great of a God you are. They're designed to tell you that everything you already think to be true about yourself, look at all these other people who believe the same thing. Look how awesome you are. Nearly every Disney cartoon is doing the same thing, and we don't even notice. Let's just jump all the way back to The Little Mermaid, right? Ariel, man, she got some of you, right? You go get those legs, girl. You go get them. You don't worry about what your daddy has to say. You don't worry about what your people need from you. You go get what you want. Go on and kiss the girl. I don't know where that came from. This is the mantra of our day, right? You be you. You go live your best life now. Nobody gets to tell you who you are. Nobody gets to tell you what to do. You follow your heart. You look inside. You find what's most important to you. You find the people who would love the same things, and you just go get it. Well, there are a million issues with this framework, but I'll give you two that I thought of this week. First one is this: the whole thing depends on you. This whole framework, it depends on you. If you've been trying to get your mind around why our culture is so angry all the time, why there's so much tension all the time, why people are depressed or sad, why they feel like everybody's against them all the time, it's because of this way of thinking. If I look inside and I find my deepest desires, and I decide that those desires are who I am, those desires are gonna set and form my identity. They're not just becoming my identity, they become my personhood. And then somehow you disagree with me. You disagree with an ideology or a situation in life. You're not just disagreeing with that simple thing, you're assaulting me as a person. If I decide my deepest desires are my identity, if I decide my sexuality is my identity, if I decide my political views are my identity, and you say something against that, if you just simply said, hey man, I don't think that's gonna be best for you. I don't think that's healthiest for you. I don't know if that's what God wants for you. You're not disagreeing with a thing, you're an oppressor. You're oppressing me as a person. You're not just simply disagreeing with a view or a desire, you're assaulting who I am. And everything we're watching, everything about our culture, everything we listen to is telling us this. It's saying you all the time. If you're a teenager, you're being bombarded by this idea all the time. I'm not overstating it to say that when you touch your phone 2,600 times a day, all it's doing is telling you how awesome you are and how right you are and how you feel about yourself is good and it's right and that's the way you should think about yourself. And this has left us lonely and angry and depressed and frustrated, and no one can see it because we're too busy following after our own heart to our own destruction. The second reason this framework just falls apart, I think we'll all understand this one, is our desires are deceptive. We're friends, right? We're getting there, we're friends. And so let's talk honestly about this. How many of you even really know what you want? Anyone ever looked inside and looked at what you're feeling and found competing desires? Two separate desires that both feel strong in your heart and in your life, but they can't both happen at the same time. I have a deep desire for six-pack abs and a greater desire for pizza. I can't have both. They compete against each other, and it's the great lie of our day. How about this? Everyone's gonna get this one. Have you ever had a feeling that if I could just get this, you decide that this, right? If I could just get this house or this car or this job or get into this relationship, and you find it only to find out that it was a lie. It was never gonna give you what you were looking for in the first place. When you do and that didn't work, what do you do next? You just gotta look back inside and find a new desire. And so it's the great lie of our day that pursue what you want, pursue what you desire most, and that's gonna give you identity. We know that's not true. And so some of you might be asking the big questions, right? So if I'm supposed to find my identity somewhere else, if I can't figure out who I am based on my own desires, and my own desires are deceptive, how do I even find out who I am? Or How am I supposed to figure out who I am when so much of what I think about myself has been formed about what they said about me? Well, the big spoiler alert early on is you can't. You can't find it that way. You were never meant to find it that way because you're not self-defined. You're not others-defined. The beauty of it is we are God-defined. You are God-defined. So what does God have to say about who you are and who you're becoming? That's what we're going to be looking at over the next 5 weeks. This series is about what becomes true about us the moment we place our faith in Jesus. When we fall on the mercy of Jesus and realize I'm a sinful person that's created distance between me and God. And so we fall on the mercy of Jesus, the gift that he's given us. Something happens. Some things become true about us in that moment, fully true about us. And we are becoming more of those things. I don't pretend to understand it all. We're going to explore some of the already but not yet aspects of what it means to have identity in Christ. That we fully receive them at our conversion, if you will, maybe a word you've heard in the past, but also through the work of his Spirit in our lives, we're increasing in nature as we follow him. It's a crazy thing for us to understand. What we're going to look at today, if you have a background in church at all, you would know our passage today. 2 Corinthians 5, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, you can probably finish it if you know it. This is a bumper sticker kind of theology, if you will. Like you could find it on a coffee mug or a t-shirt. But I wonder if not fully understanding what it means and maybe our familiarity with this verse, if it's done more damage than good, because becoming a new creation, which is where this verse goes, becoming a new creation is not becoming a better version of who you already are. Becoming a new creation is not becoming a better you. It's becoming who you were created to be, who you were supposed to be from the beginning of time. And Paul, as he writes this letter to the Corinthian church, it's a church that he planted many years prior, and this is the second letter he's had to write to them. This time, though, there's a lot of tension going on in this church that he had planted. There had been some misunderstandings, some false teachers had come through, even some people questioning Paul's authority to teach, which is crazy. But instead of lashing out at them, Paul writes kind of very vulnerably to them and with power and reminding them and us that our identity doesn't come from what others have to say, but from God and what he's already done and said about us. So we read in 2 Corinthians 5, so from now on, regard no one from a worldly point of view. Though we once regarded Christ in this way, we do so no longer. Simply, Paul's saying, there was this time where we couldn't see clearly before. And so we evaluated our own goodness and our own righteousness and the goodness and righteousness of others based on some kind of moral code that we made up. But that is no longer. Now we regard them in a completely different way. And we read in verse 17, therefore, if anyone is in Christ, the new creation has come. The old is gone and the new is here. All this is from God, who reconciled us to himself through Christ and gave us the ministry of reconciliation. How many of you are like me and you have words that you know what they mean, but you don't know what they mean? Like, if somebody said, do you know what this word means? You'd be like, yes. And then when they said, explain it, you'd be like, yeah. So reconciled is kind of one of those for me. Like I was reading it as I was preparing for this message, and so I wanted to see, what does reconciled actually mean? And hopefully this is helpful for somebody who's on my intelligence level, apparently. Reconciled means restore friendly relations between. So God, through Jesus, restored friendly relations between myself and him. Verse 19, that God was reconciling the world to himself in Christ, not counting people's sins against them. And he has committed to us the message of reconciliation. We are therefore Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. We implore you on Christ's behalf, be reconciled to God. So when this verse is talking about being new creation, being a new creation, those of us who have placed our faith in Jesus, who are trying our best to follow him and love him, that there's really three things that happen in this moment. The first one is this: we're given a new heart. Then we're given a new mind, and ultimately, as we're talking about today, we're given a new identity. So let's take them one by one. New heart. When I say that becoming a new creation means you received a new heart, here's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about inside out transformation not outside in moral conformity. Inside out transformation, not outside in moral conformity. A simpler way to say it is this: you're given a new heart, not just new habits. You're given a new heart, not just new habits. This new heart, it transfers what we used to love, what we used to spend our life chasing after, what we cared about more than anything, and it transfers it to him. This new heart allows us the ability from only focusing in on the world around us and gives us the ability to love him in a way that we would have been unable to before. Ezekiel, the prophet Ezekiel would say it this way, speaking for God, he would say, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you your old heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful to keep my laws. The new heart opens up all kinds of things for you that you were unable to see before. So here it is. Here's the new creation aspect. This is so stinking important, and I really hope it unlocks something for some people today. That God is after your heart. He's after your heart. What this new heart allows us to do is to love Jesus, to love him in a way that we were unable to before, and that connection, it's a primarily vertical connection to Jesus. Then I'm transformed horizontally. It's an inside-out transformation, this love for Jesus that transforms us horizontally. And many of you have experienced this. This is a question. How many of you have placed your faith in Jesus, have been trying to follow him for a long time, but still struggle with identity and sin issues? The rest of you are liars, so I guess we're all in the same boat here, right? Yeah, we got it. So is it possible that you could have a new heart that loves Jesus and a deep, increasing love for him in your life and still struggle with lust? Or that you could have a new heart and a love for Jesus and still fight against an anger that makes you want to throat punch people? Well, the answer is yes. Absolutely it is. But it's the love for Jesus, the being with him, which is how we grow in our love for him. By being with him more, the same way we grow in love with anybody that we know. That over time brings great conviction to our soul. But over time, being with him and learning to love him more brings a great desire in our soul to get rid of the junk, to bring that conviction. It's not the opposite way around. It's not, I became aware of all the things that are so broken in my life, and so I'm gonna work really hard and fix those things so I can love Jesus. It's the exact opposite. We fall more and more in love with Jesus. Our heart begins to change. We seek after him. We spend as much time with him as we possibly can. And inside out, we begin to transform and we begin to change the way that we live. This is why some of us are still so enslaved. We've placed our faith in him and we're trying to follow him, but we still try so hard to do all of the right things. All of our effort is spent trying to be better, ultimately trying to be a better version of who we want when God only wants your heart. And putting any energy into anything else is a waste. Is all of your energy, all of your kind of white-knuckle discipline solely focused on trying to clean yourself up? Because the best you're gonna do is smear it. You're never going to get it off. But this new heart, as we spend time with Jesus, this new heart just is blown away. It's like, what? You would love me like this? You would love me as dirty as I currently am? The new heart is this. Hey, I can see him now. I used to regard him as the world does. I used to try so hard, but I can see him now. There's nothing more beautiful than him. This new heart, the gospel, our understanding of what it means to be saved, there's nothing more beautiful than Jesus. That's what changes in the heart, and it's the affection for him. It's the affection for him that heals and drives out all of the brokenness. It's not on our own effort. It's not on our own effort or moral conformity. It's inside out transformation. You will not fix what's broken horizontally and then connect vertically. It's the other way around. You must connect with him. You must be with him. You must learn to love him. And over time, that connection will drive out the brokenness in your life. Your greatest need every single one of you, your greatest need, because it's my greatest need, is an ever-increasing affection for Jesus that will grow for all eternity. That's a new heart. But we're not just given a new heart, we're also given a new mind. Brad spoke so much about this over the past series. It was awesome. We see this in Romans 8, which is another letter from the Apostle Paul. He says this: those who live according to the flesh have their minds set on what the flesh desires. But those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their minds set on what the Spirit desires. The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. The mind governed by the flesh is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so. So again, this says clearly that the heart of stone, as we mentioned earlier, that is set on the things of the flesh, it is incapable of following his law and loving him the way that we should. It's the new heart given to us by Jesus at the moment we fall on his mercy, that we are then able to love him. We're given this new heart. And for those of us who are following Jesus, our testimony has never been that we saved ourselves. Our testimony has never been that we pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps and did all the work to clean ourselves up. I realized I had sin in my life that caused a separation between me and a holy God, that I had fallen short of his glory. And so I threw myself on the mercy of Jesus, allowed him to change me from the inside out. I have a clean slate now by grace through faith alone. I'm given a new heart. And that allows me to increasingly love Jesus. And that's when he starts to adjust my mindset. As I spend time with Jesus, as my affections stir and my love for him grows, then the way I think begins to change. We don't change the way we think so that we can love him more. And the mindset then is to lift our face from the brokenness and the wickedness of the world around us and to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord. This new mindset is to shift our eyes from the broken self-image we see in the mirror and look at a holy God who loves us how we are. He changes the way we think. We're given a new mind. Paul would say we think about whatever is true, whatever is right, whatever is noble. This is the way we think, not because we tried harder. We can't make ourselves think that way. We spend time with Jesus, we fall more in love with him, and he allows us to think that way. He changes the way we think. We gaze upon him. We love him. We're blown away by the work that he's done in our life, and that's a new mind. So we get a new heart. We have affections that are ever increasing for Jesus. We have a new mind, which is really just throwing more and more fuel on that fire of our love for him. And then ultimately we're given a new identity. And this identity is not some better version of me. It's not formed by me. It's not based on my desires. It's not shaped what other people have said about me. To be completely clear, it's not about me at all. Because I have been crucified with Christ. I no longer live at all, but Christ lives in me. The life that I now live, I live by faith in him. He is with me. He becomes my identity. And the God who loved me, he gave himself for me. That's who I am. That's my identity. And that can never be taken from me. So this is for you, if you are a follower of Jesus, if you've placed your faith in him, if you've surrendered to his will, if you've fallen more and more in love with him, if you're following after him the best that you can, this is what's true about you. This cannot be taken from you. Everything else can. My wife is human. I'm human. My kids are human. If I'm trying to identify myself based primarily as being Holly's husband, as being my kids' father, as being one of your pastors, it's also fragile. I could say something stupid in the next 5 minutes that got me fired. Like in any moment, this could be over for me. And if I'm shaping and forming my identity around all of the I am fill in the blank statements, what then? What then when they're all taken from me? Who am I? But this cannot be taken from me. How can anyone bring shame upon me? How could anybody shame you? Somebody from your past who knew you before you placed your faith in Jesus, how are they going to bring any shame upon you? They might tell a story. Remember that time you did? And you're like, yeah, I do. But thank God that guy's dead. That guy's dead. Don't worry about what he did because he's long gone. Man, can you believe the time you did? Man, I know, right? That's crazy. But that guy's been crucified with Christ. This guy's not that guy. That guy's dead. This guy's a mess. This guy's always going to be a mess. I gave up on the idea of cleaning myself up a long time ago. And this is that whole already but not yet aspect of what it means to have a new identity in Christ, to be a new creation. Paul would say earlier in his letter to the Corinthians, he'd say that, yes, you are a new creation, and you are being transformed more and more into a new creation, which is very difficult to understand, Paul. But now when I hear those voices, when I have old friends or people who want to bring me down or bring shame my direction, the voice that would try and make me feel as though I should hide from Jesus and not run after him, then this becomes my weapon. I'm now happy to run to Jesus because everything that was gross and unlovable about me was nailed to the cross, and that guy's dead. That guy's dead, and so now my identity is I am a new creation who's being made newer all the time. How awesome is that? For you, if you've placed your faith in Jesus, it's true for you as well. You are a new creation who's being made newer all the time. For us to get this in our hearts and minds, it has to go beyond this morning. And so I did a lot of work to try and create opportunities for you to dig a little bit deeper into what God might be speaking to you about who you are in him. I worked on creating this little study guide. And so over the course of these 5 weeks, there's a study guide for each week that kind of digs deeper into the scriptures we read this morning. It kind of gives some insight. It gives you an opportunity to practice some of this stuff. It also connects well with Dallas Willard's book, Renovation of the Heart, which I read as I was leading up to this series. So each week, you'll get a study guide and a corresponding chapter to read if you would like. Weeks ago, I put the effort into designing these and making them and writing them. And then on Wednesday, found out that they were printed out of order. That's just, whatever. So they will be available for you next week. They're rushing that order to us. But should you just be dying to dive deeper into this message, which I'm sure you are, here's an opportunity for you. You can go to this website. It's our website just with /who are you. And at that page, you can download a digital copy to give you week 1 if you wanted to dive into week 1. And then starting next week, we'll have some of these available for you guys to take home with you. I also ordered 30 of these from Amazon, and they did not come in. I don't know. I did my best, guys. I really tried hard. Anyway, Renovation of the Heart, Dallas Willard. You can order it on Amazon for yourself. We were going to charge you like twice as much. So anyway, I'm just kidding. But you could check that out. Spend some time with Jesus. This is the new heart aspect. This is the be with him. Your time going through this study guide and reading the scripture that's in here and journaling and doing some of the practices that we give you in here and reading from Dallas Willard. These are times that you are with him, where your affections for him begin to grow and to change if you're a follower of Jesus. And I really mean those words. Like if you've had a moment with Jesus, but you have no affection for him. If you had a moment with Jesus, but you have no desire to follow him, then I really have a question about whether or not you know him. But if you do know him and you're following after him the best that you can, and you're trying to fall more in love with him the best that you know how. And here's some things that are true about you that I want you to hear. You are not your worst mistake. You're not the highlight reel you put on social media for everybody to see. You're not what others have said about you. You're not even what you feel about yourself when you look in the mirror sometimes. Follower of Jesus, you are loved and you are forgiven. And you're a new creation and you're being made new all the time. If you're not yet a follower of Jesus, man, I can't tell you how excited I am that you're here with us. And I really do care for you a lot. Or maybe your version of what it meant to be a follower of Jesus left you feeling like you had to earn it, like you had to earn your identity, that you had to prove that you were good enough somehow. Maybe your version said that you had to hide parts of yourself so that you could live up and measure up to some standard that somebody else placed on you. Here's what's true for you. Jesus never asked for any of that. He never asked you to work harder. He never expected you to be able to muster up the energy and the strength to change yourself. All he ever wanted was your heart. All he ever wanted was for you to surrender to him and learn to love him. And so if you've never done that, if you were listening today and it sparked something for you, you realize, man, I don't think I am following him. I don't think I even know what it means to love him. There's so many ways we can change right now. You can become a new creation in this moment, in an instant, by praying a prayer just to simply say, Jesus, I need you. I need you. I want to surrender my life to you. I don't know what it all means. I don't have it all figured out. I don't know a single Bible verse. I couldn't find a book of the Bible if I was flipping through it. I don't know any of that, but I know I need you. You can do that right now. Everything changes for you. Everything changes for you. But what I've learned over time is that for so many of us, it's far less about a moment in time. And it's a lot more like a journey. It's a lot more like a journey where you're picking up little pieces here and there, and you're learning a little bit more about who he is, and you're feeling and sensing things change in you. And if that's you, I always want to give you this opportunity. We have an email address that's always available. And I cannot tell you the joy that it would bring me if I had to spend every minute of my 45 hours at work answering emails for people who wanted to talk about Jesus. If you want to know more about what it means to follow him, shoot an email. It'll come to me, and we'll get one of our pastors to reach out to you and have a conversation with you. Maybe set up coffee with you, buy you a coffee and tell you about Jesus. That's what we're here for. I do a lot of work in the office that I would much rather be talking to people about Jesus. So please, shoot up that email. Fill it up. We've been given a new heart that allows us to be able to love him, to spend time with him, and increasingly grow our affections for him. We've been given a new mind because of it that allows us to think more about him, which just fuels the fire of our love for him, and ultimately that changes who we are. Church, would you stand with me? Jesus, I thank you so much for this truth. Jesus, I pray that you would change our hearts, that you would come and capture hearts in this room or watching online, or just that you would change people, that you would come and transform lives and eternities, that we would get to be a part of that as a church. Jesus, would you help us, those of us that are trying to follow you, would you give us the grace to walk out and live in this new identity, to live as a new creation that you're constantly making newer. Jesus, we love you. Probably seen your name. Amen. Church, you guys have a great week. We'll see you next Sunday.